Welcome to Middle Fingers Up, the show where we hold our heads high and our middle fingers higher. I'm your host, Kieran McKay. Today, I am thrilled to have a special guest joining us on the podcast, Regan Bourassa, known as Pace My Heart on Instagram. Regan has an inspiring story to share. I feel it's a story that sort of intertwines weight loss and medical challenges. And if you follow her journey on Instagram, she does a beautiful job of being well balanced and sharing all of the things in between the weight loss and the medical challenges that she's discovering about herself as a woman in her 50s. And I highly recommend her Instagram page because every time I leave, Regan, you leave me feeling so hopeful. And sometimes you just talk about how it's okay to be where you're at, and that might be being upset, mad. It's not this, you got to fix it and you got to always be positive. And so I always leave there feeling, thank you for letting me just be in this place today. And as well as just watching a woman like yourself role model how to gracefully handle some of the challenges that you have been and openly sharing them. Yes, like thank you for being here today. I'm so excited to sit down and chat with you.
Oh, likewise.
Yes.
This is going to be great.
I feel it is. I was telling my husband last night, I'm like, I'm really excited. And he's like, okay, so you say that about all of them. And I'm like, no, like I'm just so excited about this one because you and I were talking earlier and I'm like, I feel that you are sort of my future. You know, I'm watching what a woman entering her 50s might be experiencing and going through. And I just sort of entered my 40s and having my own self-reflections here. And so it's really interesting as I'm going through these things, as I think a lot of women as they enter their 40s may agree that this happens. You start to recognize certain things or rediscover things. Watching you do it through your 50s is like, oh my goodness, this is where we're going. This is where we're headed. This is what I have to look forward to. This is how I can prepare. And so it's nice.
I think that there's been a long time a vision of 50 is pretty old.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And my daughter often jokes, Mom, you're 52 going on 32.
Aw, I love that.
I take that as a really great compliment that I'm glad that my spirit seems youthful to her. And
yeah. Well, and I think people have been saying this and challenging, like, what is age? How are you supposed to act when you say act your age? And I think we are quick to remind kids about that and teach kids about act your age. And so as you grow older, you think, oh, I'm supposed to be a certain way. And I definitely remember watching my mom having my brother's 10 years younger than me. And sometimes I sit down and I think she was 30 when she was having her third kid, and that was considered geriatric pregnancy. She was on bed rest, and I was 30 when I had my first kid. So it was around that time that I'm like, oh my gosh, how times have changed. And 30 was this old age, even when we were kids. And it was like, you remember the cards of Canes? And
well, the Golden Girls, I think some of them are younger than I am right now.
Right. Yeah. Someone was saying that the other day and I'm like, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, they were, they looked a lot older and behaved a lot older than what the actors were maybe on Friends in their 30s and 40s would have been. So that's funny. Yeah, it's all I guess relative when you think about these things and you think of age and even weight, and I know we're going to talk about that in a little bit here. Okay, but before we do that, I just talked about your Instagram handle, Pace My Heart. And I was scrolling through the other day and you had posted something about a post about sparkly shoes. And I also want to say when you are a really good writer, when I'm reading your post, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was saying this earlier to you, you write and talk so succinctly. And so everything that you get out I'm like, how does she write that in that way? It takes me forever to get something, out on paper or type out.
That's funny that you say that, because I can only write in the moment and I can't edit myself. So I did a guest blog post, which you know about, but I thought I would have it done 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't inspired. But then when I wrote it, I spent 10 minutes on it.
Oh, look at that.
Like it's fast.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So I think, could I ever really be a writer? Because I don't know if I could ever do a deadline, but then I could also get it done really fast. So I don't know.
There you go.
I don't know.
I think there's something to be said about that. I usually, when guests come on, I convince them to write a book or do something wild. And I think it's not wild to expect you to put your little posts and like little Instagram quotes or short stories. Sometimes there's those coffee table books.
Okay, yeah.
And there's these little affirmations of the day. Yeah. I think there's something you should play with that, because when I read them, I think, oh, this is great. And so that brings me to the sparkly shoes post, and you sort of posted this. So it's this external piece about this internal monologue. Do I wear the sparkly shoes or do I not when I go out? Mm-hmm. And when I read that, I thought it was really cute. And then I also thought, oh, okay, no, this is an example that women go through every day, when it's like this fight with our personality. Our personality wants to wear the sparkle or fancy big pattern thing, get the nails done. But society and what we've been taught and insecurity and fear, all these things get in the way of wearing the sparkly shoes or saying that thing that mattered. And I really like that you put that out there, because it's a nice reminder of we have these hurdles every day. And so tell me like, why did you put that out there? What was that about?
I think that we edit ourselves too much. Yeah. We really overthink. And I have shared, I am definitely an overthinker. So I try not to give myself a whole lot of time. I try to just be in the moment. If something inspires me, whether that's what I'm wearing or what I'm thinking, causes me to write something, I just try to go with it. I think there's a lesson in everything. Mm. And the only way that we can learn, expand, grow, affect others is by jumping in with both feet. I mean, that's why I'm here today. I've never done something like this, but you asked and I'm like, I guess so. Let's do it.
Did something change for you? Is that the perspective you've held most of your life? Or
No, I would say definitely as a plus size obese person, you want to fade in the background a lot. And having lost a lot of weight, and I get a lot more attention externally.
Right.
Now I get a lot more help in stores. I get treated a lot differently. And I think I want that I appreciate that. There's also a really big lesson in that.
Yeah.
And something that I uniquely can share with others. So I just always want to challenge that thinking.
Yeah.
That we need to just embrace who we are, what we really like in the moment. And also because I've had a lot of near-death experiences, I feel like I don't need to apologize for myself. I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very well said. Thank you for that. And like when you're just talking about being in that store and getting more help, you've been on both ends. You've been the plus size woman, as you sit in the store and not getting the service or the help. And now you're on this other end, and you kind of lived in these extremes, it seems. And so what is the one thing that you are learning about the past you through the new you?
Just how much fear that I had. I have memories of being treated very poorly.
Yeah.
And that makes me really sad because I've always been kind, supportive, cheerleader type person.
Yeah.
So that was really fairly hurtful.
Yeah.
And then now I appreciate that, but I can be resentful.
Yeah.
Because I think I needed it back then more than I need it now. Because now I really give two fucks about what a lot of people think about me or what I look like.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because I fit in.
Yeah.
But that person back then needed a lot more support than they got.
Do people that knew you back then and know you now with having lost a significant amount of weight, do they look at you different and talk to you different?
I think most of I surround myself with really good people. So they've always been really good cheerleaders. I mean, I think most of them would say I always loved fashion. They always thought I was a good looking, good dressed, plus size person. So that's nice. But yeah, they want the best for me now.
Right.
But they remember those hard times too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's good to hear that you've had a good village around you, because I would imagine, and I know you're going to share more about your story. This, like we said, this isn't about someone that watched The Biggest Loser and decided, oh, I'm going to be that contestant. I'm going to lose that weight because I need to get healthy. There's this complicating factor, these medical issues that were occurring. So you and I were talking about which came first, the chicken or the egg. Like, was it this weight loss? Was it the medical stuff? So I'm really excited to hear how you got to where you are now, because when I just think, if that was me, I don't know if I could be sitting here talking in the way that you are. And this is a lovely, refreshing mentality, I would imagine, to have, because you had said to me a few weeks ago when we were talking about how you got to take it day by day. Like, you're literally waking up every day thinking, okay, I'm here. What's this going to be like? And I'm not going to let you say anything now that I've said that, because I want to do our middle fingers up and then get into that.
Okay.
So, I'm also learning a lot about your story. So I'm just like jumping ahead here, getting so excited. So I'm going to wait for a second. Okay. So the sparkly shoes though. So you wore them out though. I just want to finish that story.
Oh yeah.
You did it.
I did it. Yeah.
Yes.
I got comments on them.
There you go. Perfect. Yes. I love it. Okay. Let's do our middle fingers up. So did you bring something today?
I did.
Okay. What did you bring?
Okay. So this is for me or from me, but I think it represents a lot of people.
Okay.
So I love getting to know people and their stories, but I'm not a huge fan of small talk.
Okay.
And one of those things that we put out there a lot, which discounts a lot of people, is asking, what do you do for a living?
Oh, yeah.
So you can imagine that question, what it does to stay-at-home moms, what it does to people that have medical challenges, what it does to somebody who's on a leave of absence for mental health issues,
right?
What it does for somebody who maybe is a caregiver for someone in their family.
Yeah.
It kind of reduces you to a career.
Right.
And I think we're a lot more than that. I would like to see people ask questions. What are you passionate about? What do you do for fun? What tickles your funny bone?
Right. Yeah.
So banal questions.
Yeah.
What do you do for a living?
Right.
Let's skip it.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one. It's a really good one. I've been on both ends of that, of thinking my career was my life, and felt like I was really good at it. So it gave me more of a reason to be like, this is the best thing for me. And I became a mom, but my career was still my life. And so I couldn't wait for people to ask me. But sometimes I'd be in a conversation, and particularly if it was dominated by men, I wouldn't get asked, like, what do you do, right? Like, I don't know if you ever noticed, a lot of times men won't ask you, what do you do? So I thought that was interesting. I never would get asked. And then when just a year ago now, it's literally a year ago today, actually, I was done working after so many years. And so now there is this anxiety, because I feel this need to preface with, I had this really successful career in mental health. And so I don't like being asked either, because I think what I'm doing, I don't want to compare working to what now, because I think those are two different worlds. But what I'm doing now, I'm finding it fulfilling in a different way than when I was working, and in a way that I think is necessary for me. And so it's weird to be able to have to tell someone that I'm not working when I feel like I'm working in so many different ways, like.
And to be clear, if I asked you what you were passionate about, and maybe it is
my
what
job.
you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
It is your job.
Right.
But I just think that it's a minimizing question.
Yeah.
And that there's a lot of other ways to get to know people and really be open to that experience.
I love it. That's a challenge to all of us is when we want to ask someone that, what would Regan say? Yeah. Yeah. What makes you laugh? What do you love to do? Yeah. What are it's summertime. What are some summer things you get? Yeah. There's so many different ways to get to know someone. So many different ways. Yeah. I love that. And letting people decide if they want to share. Yeah. My love is my work. Yeah. I don't see it any other way. Yeah. So that's a choice versus you have to say. Right. Yeah.
And right now I particularly are in a holding pattern. Yeah. Because I'm waiting for an upcoming surgery. But I don't necessarily want to tell Joe Blow my whole medical history.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. Yeah. How to be authentic, but really that's just a piece of who I am.
So what question would you want someone to ask you? What are you hoping they'd ask you instead?
What is something that you enjoy to do?
That's the one.
Or who do you enjoy doing things with?
Okay. You ended it. I was like, what is she? Who do you enjoy doing things with?
Yeah. Things. Lots of things in this world that we can do. Yeah.
So how would you answer that question?
For me, I really love getting to know people, getting out, experiencing our city. Yeah. I love to laugh with my friends. Yeah. I love dancing.
Yeah. I saw that you got back into that. Yeah. After some time. So what is it particularly that you're doing?
Or dancing? It's just social dancing.
Okay. Yeah, no. I was like, because there was some Stampede ones. I was like, do you line dance or is there another? But literally just dance.
Literally just dance.
You would love go for it.
I love live music.
Yeah. Yeah. Nashville. Have you done Nashville?
I haven't done Nashville. I think that'd be a great trip.
Yeah. I feel like that's like you. Yeah. Literally, you just defined Nashville when you said that. It's amazing.
Yeah. I did do Vegas in February and did some shows there. Yeah. So that was good. But, then you're sitting in a seat.
That's right. You're dancing in your... What shows did you go see?
We saw Bruno Mars, which was a huge highlight.
Was it?
That's a man who dances with every pore. Yeah.
He can dance.
He is so good. Yeah. And saw Luke Bryan.
Oh, I'm not a country fan, but I love Luke Bryan.
He's cute, eh?
Yeah. What's my favorite one is Knockin' Boots.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I can listen to that song on repeat. Yeah.
It was very much like more of a Hollywood stage than like a country experience that I'm used to living here. Yeah. It was different. And then we had tickets to Bryan Adams, but I had a heart issue. We had front row tickets and I didn't get to go.
Aww.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Have you seen Bryan Adams?
I haven't.
Oh, he's good.
Is he?
I grew up with an influence with my aunts and uncles.
Yeah.
And so a couple of aunts and uncles were big fans. And so became a huge fan of Bryan Adams. People make fun of us, those of us that love Bryan Adams, but he is so good.
I love his husky voice.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. He's the only person that doesn't need to clear their throat when they're talking, right? I sound like that and someone's like, God, clear your throat. Yeah. I appreciate, just back to your MFU. Thank you for that. I'm going to enjoy that advice now that you mentioned about the whole, what do you do for a living? And also preparing for, should that question come up from someone. So if somebody does ask you, what do you do? What would you say?
What do I say? Sometimes it depends. I'm going to say on the weekend, a man asked me that, a very high level executive. And so I just cheekily said, I'm free as a bird. And he looked at me like, what the fuck? And he's like, no, like really, what do you do? I'm like, free as a bird, man. Just
he's like, is she high?
Yeah.
What drugs are you on?
Yeah. And then he's like, I want to know more. I'm like, well, I'm just here enjoying time with my friends. And
I love that. I'm glad you shared that. Yeah. Thank you, because I'm going to say that now. Free as a bird. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Yeah.
If he had more depth in the conversation, then maybe I would have looked for something a little bit more serious, but you give what you get. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You get what you give.
Totally.
So,
yeah. I like it. Yeah. I'm going to give up mine and join you. I like what you said. So I can't. I don't have one. I'm gonna. Well, I have two, but they're like silly, and they're just gonna be rants. And so I'm going to not share mine and I like yours better. So I'm gonna join yours. I'm gonna put my middle fingers up to that question too.
Okay,
sounds good. I like it. I'm free as a bird now, so I love it. Okay, we kind of sort of talked a little bit about started talking about your journey, and then I said, hang on a second. So I just want to go. Maybe we can start at the beginning. I had the opportunity of meeting you through a boudoir 40/40 campaign shoot with Lori McBrown Photography. So Lori's been on the show. I've posted a lot of Lori's wonderful reels and stories. You and I had an opportunity together. That's where we really met, to be interviewed by Global News. And Lori was putting on this 40/40 campaign, and she asked us to be part of that interview and share our experience. And you and I sort of stood outside, I don't remember, in the parking lot of the C Space, like beautiful building, by the way.
Very beautiful.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, super chic. And I just remember we're standing up. I was about to go to my vehicle. You were about to get into yours. It was like this beautiful day. And you just you and I started talking about your story and just a little bit about what you were going through in the moment. And prior to that, a few weeks before, Lori had said to me, I really think you would love having a conversation with Regan. And I was like, let's do this. If Lori thinks so, you're right, because I love Lori. I trust Lori. Lori's seen me naked. Lori's seen you naked. So if we don't trust her, we have a problem, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so
she meets a lot of people.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you and I are not the only ones that would sit here and say that. So so she had mentioned this, and I thought, oh, okay. And then when I got talking to you, fast forward to just a few weeks ago, I walked away with this overwhelming sense of, holy fuck, you carry yourself in a way that is free as a bird, as you would say, right? And so to hear you talk about day by day, and you mentioned a little bit about your children, and I contacted you soon after, and I was so grateful that you said yes, because I want to talk to you about a few things. So we're going to kind of let me be selfish and start this. Let's start at the beginning of your story. So when did this journey of losing over 268 pounds? So you mentioned you were an obese woman. Mm-hmm. You lost a significant amount of weight. Can you fill in the gaps? Like, what happened? How did that start?
So we'll probably never know the concrete answer to that. There are a few things that we can date. So I was a average size kid. I never struggled really with my weight as a kid. I did have some, familial comments to the era. Like, I was a swimmer, so my grandma used to make a lot of my clothes, and she always had to size up because swimmers have bigger shoulders. So she used to call me Little Miss Fatback. But it was supposed to be endearing. And I never really thought about it when I was little, but I think it probably impacted me more as a teen.
Right.
I probably was never the greatest eater through my teenage years. Like, my dad was he was an athlete, and he was really big on, you didn't eat breakfast. There's no signs that you ate breakfast. But, that's pretty typical for a teen girl kind of thing, right? Yeah. So anyways, I always very average size, thing particularly big or small.
Yeah.
I think I hit about 25. Just my weight started to creep up.
Yeah.
But no particular reason why. Like, just, it was noticed on my physical, and I certainly was feeling more tired, but I didn't know why. And I got married at 27, had my daughter at 29 after fertility treatment. And I think fertility treatment did increase my weight as well, which is really pretty common. So I was really just focused on having a family. So I didn't really beat myself up too much about it. But when she was a year old, we discovered that I had a brain tumor. So they dated that back about 5 years. So they said that's actually when you started to gain weight, and it was a pituitary tumor, which is, your hormone center. It was a large tumor, and I had to have it removed. But I just still, after that, my weight just continued to increase. And it really got to the highest point about 5 years ago when, again, I'd been very ill for well over a year. I had been struggling for a long time in there, but I really wasn't eating much. I was falling asleep randomly in conversation.
Yeah.
I had tried repeatedly to go to family doctor who just said, well, you should eat less, move more. And I'm like, I am hardly eating. I would move if I didn't fall asleep all the time.
Right.
You know, I just didn't really get much support. And then my heart tumor was discovered.
And how old was your daughter at this time?
When my heart tumor
Yeah.
was discovered? So she was a teenager in high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you had your son as well.
Okay. Yeah, I had my son as well. So he was 13. Yeah.
Okay.
14. Yeah, he was 14. Yeah, so I guess one of the best gifts I got from that experience, you know, it was very scary. When they discovered it, they weren't sure how I was alive because I had very little blood flow. I was in bed and they wouldn't let me get out of bed, like not to have a shower, they were afraid that if I moved, that my heart would stop working.
Wow. So how long did you live this way before they discovered your heart condition?
You know what? They said it had probably been about 5 years for it to grow to that point.
5 years. Okay.
But I don't know if that's true because I had a second heart tumor, as you probably know, last fall.
Mm-hmm.
And the echocardiogram that detected it was only 9 months from the past one that seemed clear.
Oh, wow.
So either the second one grew super fast or, you know, just wasn't detected.
Yeah.
But so I don't, again, we'll never 100% know.
Mm-hmm.
But again, last summer, I thought I had sort of plateaued where my weight loss would be. And I'd still exceeded what they thought I would lose by far. But since I've had that second tumor out, continue to lose weight.
Yeah.
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 So it's kind of hard to know exactly about the weight, but I said the biggest gift from that first heart tumor was the cardiothoracic surgeon said to me, okay, you've just survived what many people never face. So what do you want? And I said, I really want my body back. I said, I really want to be without all this weight. And he's like, well, we've done you a real disservice, but I can tell you now that people are going to take you seriously. The right people are going to surround you and you will get the help that you need.
Oh my goodness. What was that like for you to hear that?
It was so empowering.
Yeah.
I really took that in. And he had just come off himself having throat cancer.
Oh, surgeon?
My surgeon.
Wow.
So I think he was very in tune with the fact when you face your mortality, what do you want to do? Yeah,
like I was going to ask, why did he ask you that? I don't know of patients. I've never heard of any doctor asking a question like that.
You know, I think maybe that I don't know him from before the surgery, but he also asked me before surgery, he's like, okay, I just want to spend some time with you and get to know you because I want to know. I want to be able to tell the team about you so that we're talking about you and we're connecting with you while we're in surgery.
Wow. Yeah. That's like not our classic medical sort of, language.
Yeah.
It's very people-centered. It's very you as an individual. Who are you as opposed to, someone on a chart.
Yeah.
That they're 50 somewhat or 40 somewhat year old woman.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where you decided was, okay, I would like to get my body back because you were feeling so out of yourself, I would imagine, being exhausted all the time and not being able to move.
Yeah. And I was really frustrated with the care that I had, really that it was minimized.
Yeah.
And really you're made to feel like this is they say, eat less, move more. It seems like it's a psychological deficit that they're really pointing at, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, if you had better control.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
If you were doing the right things.
Right. They're just assuming by looking at you that you're essentially, they're saying you're lazy.
Yeah. So the first thing I did when I left the hospital, you have to see a doctor within a week.
Yeah.
I fired my doctor. I called and said, I'm not coming back.
Wow.
And I looked at clinics that were around me and started calling to see if they had physicians taking new patients. And then I Googled them.
Yeah.
And so I found it like a new grad. And I thought, she doesn't have baggage. I might as well go. So I went in and she said the right thing. She's like, I'm still learning. I've got a long way to go, but I can tell you that I will always seek answers, and I'm a very good collaborator.
Oh, yeah. You needed to hear that.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. And so she was the first step in the right direction for me. And she's helped us find the right team.
Yeah.
And yeah. She's definitely stood up for that. So,
yeah. So she's been with you along the way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So then what?
What as in?
So what was next after that?
There is a bariatric clinic here in the city.
Okay.
And you have to be referred by your family doctor. Yeah. And they have a set of criteria for you to be able to even be referred. So you have to have like a sleep apnea test. Right. You have to have labs done. Even like psychologically, if you had an eating disorder or mental health issues, those have to be in control sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So we spent a year getting my labs in order and getting the tests done. Mm-hmm. And then I got referred to the clinic. And then from there, of course, my case is quite complex. Mm-hmm. So we did things a little out of order. Like usually you start with your nutrition basics class. Like there's a series of classes that you go through. But for me, I started with internal medicine so that they could really go through my chart and see whether they thought that this was possible. Mm-hmm. And I started with a dietitian. So another part of my story is that I've really struggled with gut issues since I was a kid. Always had a really sensitive stomach. Yeah. My mom took me to a naturopath, I think in my teen years, and they said she's very sensitive to dairy and gluten, even, you know, a gazillion years back then.
Yeah. You were like the patient zero, maybe.
Patient zero, who knows? Yeah. So, I've always kind of had that awareness, but it was way past that.
Yeah.
I worked with a dietitian and she was like, you just do not consume enough calories. You have such disordered eating from just trying to control my weight.
Yeah.
It wasn't about overeating. It was about trying to control, which is kind of the opposite of most people think. Mm-hmm. And then we had to go through a series of, like, I'd had a lot of scopes, and they had done biopsies to test for celiac disease, I think 3 times, and they always came back negative. But like the team of them were, but really, it seems like you have celiac. But it never came back positive.
Right.
So, and then I swallowed this little pill camera.
Oh.
Yeah. It took about a year to get referred for that, but literally you swallow this camera and it takes pictures the whole way through.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And does it come out the other end?
You just poop it out
and you don't even know that you pooped it. Oh my God.
Well, you see it there because it is a decent size.
I've never heard of this.
Yeah. It's like a $20,000 test or something.
How long does it take for it to take?
So it depends. Oh. So that's part of what it's testing is how fast it goes through your system.
Okay.
So for me, it did confirm that I have IBS, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. But other than that, like my anatomy, I have diverticulitis. I don't know if you know what that is.
My husband's diagnosed with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, a few things, like you learn that don't eat too much raw vegetables, like or fruit.
Get your fiber.
Yeah. Avoid seeds.
Yes.
Yeah. That type of thing. So really that's about it structurally, which, is not an uncommon thing, but my IBS is pretty severe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did that. And then we definitely went through a lot of food eliminations and reintroductions and stuff. So for me, I'm sensitive to dairy, but I'll drink lactose-free milk and I'm okay. And yogurt is fine.
Right.
I can eat cheese, but I wouldn't gorge on cheese kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So really working with a dietitian to learn about most of us have some intolerances, but it doesn't mean that we're allergic to them.
Right.
But on the other hand, you have to have some awareness when you eat foods.
Yeah.
Corn is something I'm very sensitive to. And there's a lot of like corn syrup and corn binders in a lot of things.
Yeah.
For a long time, I was reading absolutely everything. And it's like, oh, it's got some corn in it. Can't have that. Or or cornstarch or
right. It's the things that you realize that are in all these sorts of things. You know, you never think of those ingredients.
Exactly.
You're looking for carbs and it just is where's the carb? Where's the sugar? Not what are those specific things. That's interesting to hear. Yeah.
So that definitely has had some play. Even now, like I know if I am feeling some anxiety or anxiousness, it's definitely going to affect my gut.
Yeah.
So
that correlation is so strong. The anxiety that's linked to it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like I take a probiotic every day.
Right.
I do work, like you saw me today. I was working on making sure I have some calories in me.
Yeah.
That's definitely had play through this whole thing.
Yeah.
But we kind of worked on that. And then it was really up to the surgeon whether they thought I could go ahead with this because my gut is so sensitive, because it's a big risk. Like I had Roux-en-Y surgery. Okay. Bariatric surgery, which there's several different types of bariatric surgery, but Roux-en-Y, they actually they don't remove your stomach. They disconnect your stomach. So it's just free floating in me. Oh. And then they've recreated just a little pouch basically for me. So
what does the pouch do?
The pouch acts as a stomach, like a much
so that's where your food goes.
That's where it goes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I get a sense of fullness way sooner than the average duck out there.
Okay. Yeah.
So I have to try and eat more frequently because I can only consume so much. But it was a bit of a risk because I have IBS. Like I had to agree and acknowledge that the risk of that would be that I'd have to be put on a feeding tube if it didn't function properly. And I said I just felt like my stomach had never worked properly and maybe this would help. Yeah. And I would say for the first year, I probably had never had such good digestive function. Wow. The last little while, I have definitely struggled. This last month, I've lost 6 pounds. So not ideal. So I'm really trying to claw that back a little bit, but we're constantly working and trying to figure things out, and I have a good team. So
you're talking about going through this major heart surgery. And then after that, your doctor asks you, what now? What do you want? What do you, and you say, I want my body back. Yeah. So you go with this wraparound team to help you learn how and what to eat. What were your sensitivities, as well as you have this other surgery. Yeah. And when this happens, your goal at that time was to lose weight. And now you're telling me you're losing too much weight. Yeah. That's what I'm hearing from you.
It is.
Like you're not like telling me, oh, I lost 6 pounds. You're like, this is, I can't be losing this. Yeah. Like that's again, you're living again from one extreme to the other, going from, I wish I could lose weight. I would imagine, right? Like, is that the dialogue that would go through your mind to, I wish I was thinner or whatever you're supposed to think. Yeah. And now you're on this other end thinking what?
I'm just thinking, can I slow it down? Can I find some stability? Right. For a host of reasons. I've shared, and part of why I did the boudoir was to really show, because I think I look sort of like an average person from the outside, but a lot of it is skin. Yeah. They think that I probably have about 25 pounds of skin. Wow. So it's not a small amount. So if you take, like today I'm 131 pounds and you take 25 pounds off that, then I'm 106 and I'm 5'5". That puts me, not that BMI is, the gold seal. I think we know that needs to be thrown out the window, but it is a bit of a health benchmark. So that would put me underweight for my height. Yeah. And also I would like to have plastic surgery, to remove some skin, and you have to be at a stable weight for about 6 months.
Okay.
So I've yet to find that stable weight.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of working on that. And if I don't have any fat left in me, I've got like a white lady ass, which is like non-existent. And I had hoped
Sir Mix-a-Lot said best.
Yeah. So I find sitting on like
I'm still laughing.
I know.
At the white lady ass.
I do.
I love it. I love hearing this from you.
Yeah. So sitting on hard surfaces, like I'm always, if it's a wood seat or a bench seat, I'm going for the bench. Like, yeah. There's like no padding there. I had hoped that he was like, when I saw the plastic surgeon back in December, he was like, you haven't left me a lot to work with. And I've lost 30 pounds since then.
Wow.
I've lost a little over 20 pounds since I did the photos with Lori.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really working on stability, and with my heart, it runs at a higher rate than even on medication than most people at a sitting state.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of working against that, but the heart meds theoretically should encourage me to gain weight. We're not sure why. And I've had 5 colorectal surgeries. I've just been really prone to infection because of the diverticulitis. And I think just wear and tear on my poor colon. It's like, I'm just tired.
Yeah. Like, leave me, go find someone else or something else. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I had surgery 6-7 weeks ago. And I thought maybe that kind of disrupted things a little bit, but I don't know. It seems like that's settled out. So I'm not sure why.
So up to date, like how many surgeries have you had?
I've had 14.
14 in how many, what year span? Like 10 years?
Well, the first one that I count is the pituitary tumor, really. Yeah. And then, so since then, but really most of them have been in the last 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And your future holds more surgeries or?
Yeah. So I'm currently on a short list for another surgery, an ablation heart surgery, we think. So my heart currently, I've said it runs a little fast, but it gets off track. So it will run way too fast. So I do something called vagal maneuvers at home where I try to bear down like you're having a baby or a big poop, or I'll dunk my face in ice cold water, feet up the wall, like a multitude of things. I'm like got a whole bag of tricks that I try.
Yeah.
But
to get blood to the heart?
No, just to try and get my heart to reset.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just kind of like a factory reboot.
Yeah.
And it's not been successful at home. So I have to knock on wood.
Yes. Do it.
My daughter is a nursing student, and nurses and medical professionals and students, they're very superstitious. Oh. So that's why I had to knock.
Oh, oh my God. That's like scary to hear that medical professionals also
they are
part of their medical.
Yeah. You never say it's a quiet night.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
You've heard that, I'm sure.
Yes,
yeah. But things like that. Anyway, so
firefighters probably too.
Yeah. I've had a really smooth month.
Yeah.
But before this, I've been in the hospital about twice a month, every week or two, having a cardio conversion, they call it. So that's where they chemically and IV, they push IV to stop my heart, and then they wait for me to come back.
Oh my gosh.
So it's kind of short-lived. Yeah. Yeah. It's a different way to live your life. That's for sure. So I'm very...
Can you like be a little more specific to that? Like what? Okay. Like that's a lot. Like that's a lot. That's what I mean when I walked away in that, like I was overwhelmed with, oh my goodness, how is it that one person is going through all these sorts of things and we're all sort of living around each other, and you hear their story and it's like, what is this? What's happening here? And you today, even when you talk, there's a lot, I hear a lot of hope. Like when I hear you talk, I hear a lot of hope. And where, am I wrong to think that?
No.
Like, where does that come from? Because that's 14 surgeries later, and you still have this day-to-day journey, right? Like you may need to get surgery again, from my understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had an MRI recently, you had said, and
Yeah.
that was all clear though.
Yeah, that was for my head. So that was different.
Jeez, I'm like, if anyone saw me right now, they'd see me like dramatically rolling my eyes in the sense of how do you what does your calendar look like?
So I thought you might ask me that. So I had to go and count. So I've had 10 medical appointments this month. If someone was to ask me what I do,
yeah,
that's my job.
While I'm living free as a bird.
Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of doctors. I'm doing a lot of tests.
Yeah.
Yeah. That really is a lot of what my life is.
How do you manage your, like you talked about your light shines bright, your spirit. How do you manage that hope? How do you stay in this perspective that you're walking in with today when you have all these appointments to go to and one from the other, and like how do you maintain your well-being?
I've said I have a great circle.
Yeah.
Of family and friends, and I always am planning ahead. I'm putting things in my calendar that are going to lift me up. My friends are really good about knowing when I need that lift, and they know when I need a little bit of space just to kind of regroup. And I'm a big one in, you can't race through your feelings.
Yeah.
You just got to go through it. And sometimes that's sludge, and sometimes that's basking in the sun. And you got to take whichever comes and kind of honor it. I find if you push against the negativity, it hits you harder in the face. Yeah. So
have you been in those dark places?
I definitely have.
Yeah.
Yeah. I often find actually that when you're in the thick of a medical emergency, you're super calm. And for me anyways, I'm very calm. I don't get excited about it. Like at the hospital, they're always really shocked about how I handle having the cardio conversion, because a lot of people are very freaked out by that. But I'm super calm. I usually kind of talk through it. I keep my eyes.
They don't put you under?
No.
So you're awake while they're stopping your heart?
Yeah.
So you're sitting there?
Yeah.
And they shock you, or? No,
so I
don't know how I walked over that. I just, in my head, you never assume. I just assumed, okay, it's like they put her under and then they figure this out. But
no. Okay. So they get me primed for paddles. So like their sticker a big sticker goes on my chest and on my back, and I have an IV run. And so they use a chemical, adenosine, and they give me an IV, and I'm all hooked up to the monitor.
Can you feel that chemical through your veins?
Yep.
What does it feel like?
So for me, and I am unusual. So a lot of people feel a real sense of dread and like panic because you lose the air out of your body, kind of thing.
That's what it starts to feel like?
Yeah. Because your heart stops. So then you're not, everything feels tight. But for me, it feels like warmth is washing over me. And then it's just, sometimes it can just get dark, and then I come back.
What?
Yeah. And if that didn't work, then they would have to do paddles. I have only ever had paddles when I've been in a surgery situation. So I've already been out. So thankfully I haven't had to experience
They had to use the paddles on you when you were already out. Because your heart gave out?
Yeah. Well, it was going too fast, and it wouldn't reset. So I had to do paddles. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So how often do you go in and get this procedure done? You said twice a month?
Yeah, on about an average. Yeah.
For forever now, or?
We don't know. So that's why I'm on this expedited list.
Yeah.
There's obviously I have a cardiologist and a full team, but my issues are electrical in nature. So that requires me to see an electrophysiologist or electrocardiologist, which is super.
Like a heart electrician?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's a job out there.
It is. Insane. But it's super specific. My colorectal surgeon, he's like, it's like the geeks of us geeks. Like, he's like,
the like, IT department of
He's like, that's so upper level. Those are the smartest cookies out there.
Oh my goodness. Kudos to those cookies.
Yeah.
Thank you for them.
But there's not many of them. So, like at the foothills, which services all of southern Alberta, they have a lot of patients to see, as you can imagine. So, and he said there's only 3 of them.
Wow.
So my cardiologist had referred me to see one, and then from there have a test done to see if surgery would be a possibility. But now they've decided, okay, it's very obvious she needs more intervention. So let's just get her on the list. So he said, what we're going to do is I'm on this short list, and they'll do the electrocardiogram, see what they can see in there, see if there's something that they can fix. And then they would just go in and they would just fix it while they're in there. Because I have a lot of scarring, as you can imagine, in my heart. So I may code just in the process of going in. You know, we can't go in there too many times. So let's just try and get in there once and get her done.
So can we pause for a sec?
Okay.
Because you just also quickly jumped over that. You know, you're just throwing these things at me. Hold on a sec. What does that mean for you, knowing when you go into a procedure like this that there's a possibility you could die? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Okay, so there's not a lot of people like me. So first off, to have a heart tumor is less than 1% of type of cancer tumors out there. To have a second one, the resident in the hospital said he could only find 10 other cases. So that would make me 11. Ever. Not in our city, but ever. So the amount of trauma that my heart has gone through is unquestionably not typical. It's not to minimize what having a bypass would be, but they have a roadmap for that. So they don't really have a roadmap for where my heart is at. Mm-hmm. And the electrophysiologist said, from looking at the tests, he's curious or questioning whether I might have a genetic malformation in there, that I have an extra electrical current. And he's like, that could be a really good thing, because if the irritation and the scarring has caused some irritation, maybe we could burn off that extra connection. Mm-hmm. But it has to be in a safe place, and it has to be somewhere that they can reach. And I have to have not too much damage from the other surgeries, that there's still enough function.
Right.
So there's a lot of variables. He's like, basically, I need you to sign off knowing that we're going to do the best that we can do.
What does that mean for your household?
Well, I think definitely they live with a level of stress that I wish they didn't have to.
Yeah.
And they all experience it differently. My son is quite emotional. He's quite attached to me. Not that they all aren't, but
your son is diagnosed with he's on the spectrum, right?
Yes.
Autism spectrum
disorder.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And he has learning disabilities and ADHD.
So you in many ways, if you're saying he's that attached to you, you were to him probably like his primary.
Yeah.
You're always the one, I would imagine, there with him.
I'm his go-to. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
For him, I share less details. Right. Mm-hmm. And I focus on how many times I've beat something or come back, or, mm-hmm. I am tenacious.
Yeah.
So we focus on that with my daughter being a nursing student, and she's the one who always comes to the hospital with me. They talk to her like she's a peer.
Yeah.
Right. So she knows the reality of it more, but she's also very respectful of that I need to feel like I am controlling the decisions for myself.
Yeah.
We talk about it a lot, and I know it's stressful for her, but she's pretty kick-ass, I gotta say. Yeah. I've raised a strong girl there, for sure.
And you're kind of getting your investment back.
Yeah.
It's nice to have that.
It is nice, yeah.
I think that's amazing to be a parent and be able to be proud of your adult child.
Yeah.
That's what every parent hopes for.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing what we're doing. So that's really lovely to hear
is.
that she's kind of like your case manager in some ways, comes along with you, but gives you the space, like you said.
Yeah. And my family, I mean, they all handle it differently, right?
Yeah.
I try to always frame it positively. I have a few close friends who are, I would say, get down in the muck with me when those times come.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that they're willing to do that with me.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they all wait for me to come back out. But I do have moments, and you're right, knowing I did have a little period there. I had been in the hospital, I think in April, 3 times. And so that was getting a little old for me. I wasn't really loving that.
Yeah.
And then, just kind of hearing from the electrophysiologist that we don't, they do ablation surgery, but they've never really done it for someone like me. So we don't know what to expect. And I don't want to live on an endless loop of in the hospital, because I know the toll it takes on everybody around me. And I'm just going to get older. My heart's going to get older. And if we're not fixing this, then I want to think about my care level. So in the hospital, usually when you get to, I don't know what the age is, if it's 65 or 70, or it probably depends on your health. They usually have a social worker speak to you, and you decide what level of care that you want. And nobody has ever had that conversation with me. And I talked to my family doctor about it, and she's like, well, we all see you as super vibrant and tenacious, and you've got so much to live for. And I said, okay, well, I want to know that we're getting to a point that we know where I'm at. Yeah. And I said, I want to live life, and I want to put some guidelines in. So I initially had thought before the ablation, maybe I would want to put in that I wouldn't be resuscitated. Yeah. That caused a little bit of stir in my circle. Right. They weren't so keen on that, but they also are super supportive and, wanted me to make my own decision. So basically, I listened to everybody, and the discussion was just going in could be traumatic enough for my heart that I could code. That doesn't mean that we couldn't fix something that they find. Maybe that's not the right time, because you can't say, well, if you find this, then it's okay. But if you find that, then it's not okay. Yeah. It doesn't quite work like that. You either say, you don't bring me back, or you do.
That it's black and white.
It's black and white. Yeah. Basically what they all said is that they think that I should go into this with no restriction, and then we'll have all the information. We'll know where we're at. And if I want to then at that point say, okay, no more resuscitation, that everybody would work at being okay with that. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Do you know when you're going?
I don't. So I'm on a short list. So I asked the electrophysiologist, I said, so is short list, is that 2 months? Is that 10 months? And he laughed and he goes, yeah, that.
You have we don't know.
Yeah.
So what does that mean then? Are you kind of on call?
Yeah.
All day, every day?
Yeah. So I'm not going anywhere.
So you can't travel?
No, I can't. I can't really go anywhere that's more than a drive away from the foothills. Yeah.
And that also is why you're not able to go and do the surgery for the skin removal, right? You wanted to do that.
Yeah.
So you technically could, but you can't because you're on the short list now.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, my weight has to be stable for 6 months.
Right. So you wouldn't really, you're not even there at this point.
No. So okay. I'm working on it, but yeah.
So knowing this, that you're on the short list, so let's play a mind fucking game here.
Sure.
Like,
I love those.
What
I live my life that way.
Clearly. I'm getting goosebumps. I can't even ask the question, and I'm expecting you to answer it. So what goes through the mind of someone who is waiting for surgery that there's a good chance they could die? So what are you thinking every day?
Well, I wouldn't say there's a good chance I could die.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
I don't live like that.
You don't live. Okay.
We don't put those thoughts in our head.
Okay.
No. Yeah, I live my life with joie de vivre. I mean, I really embrace my life. I don't like to wait around for things. I like to seize the day. If an opportunity like this comes my way and I think, fuck yeah, why not?
And has this always been your
No.
trait? No. Because you talked about control earlier but that was with, when your experience in learning with your dietitian. So is that sort of how life was for you in general?
Yeah, I think I lived, I'm 52. So I lived in a time where it was do the right things, say the right things, wear the right dress, be the quiet girl. And I'm not that anymore. I'm not. That's, like I said, there's a gift in everything.
Yeah.
And when you realize tomorrow is not promised to you, it lifts a lot of weight.
Mm-hmm. Because some of us think about what would happen tomorrow if I died. How would I want to live today? Some of us, you hear songs, you read poems, you hear that. But we don't really know because we don't know. We don't, like you said, we don't go there, right? We don't think like that. And you're right. And I thank you for correcting me that, because you're right. There's a good chance I can die today, tomorrow too. And I don't think that way. So why would I think that way for you?
Yeah.
So thank you for that. I feel for me, I would be so afraid that I'm living the wrong day every day because I don't know how many days I have. When that is the reality right now too for me. I could tomorrow, something could happen.
So there is no wrong day. There's no wrong day. If you are listening to your heart, following your gut, and paying attention to your brain, there is no wrong way to live any day. So even if that day feels like shit, and the best you've done that day is showered and curled up with a book, or cried with your dog, or, whatever it might be, that's the day you're meant to have. And you just honor that day. But you don't let yourself dwell in it either. Mm-hmm. You look for things that lift you up and bring you joy. I'm a real big joy seeker. Mm-hmm. I want to have fun. I want to impart living life to the fullest. Yeah. And I get to do that. I try to show people that in my own small way. It's not like I have a big following on Instagram, but I still feel amazed that people come to hear my musings, really, because I don't know what I'm doing with myself or what I'll be when I grow up.
Yeah.
I just work on being the most authentic that I can be. And I think I've learned a lot about myself. And if I can impart anything on living your life with uncertainty, because we all have uncertainty. We just don't recognize it.
I feel like I picked up on that when I was going through your Instagram page. What does uncertainty mean to you today in comparison to maybe 20 years ago, 10 years ago even?
Yeah. So 20 years ago, I was very much a young mom and thinking, how am I going to raise these kids?
Yeah.
And how am I going to be the best person that I can be? I've said I've always tried to be kind and thoughtful, and I think life is always about learning. I'm a voracious reader. I love information and stories and that type of thing. But what it means now is really dialing into day by day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a lot more focused.
Do you feel that your understanding of what gratitude is has changed, or do you feel that you've carried that with you throughout the years?
Yeah, I think I've carried it throughout the years for sure. I did a project, I don't know. I want to say 7 years ago with one of my friends, actually, that Karen, and we did a little challenge on Facebook at the time. We did a 365 days of gratitude. Mm-hmm. So every day we posted something that we were grateful for.
Right.
And as you can imagine, some days you're like, fuck, there's nothing to be grateful for,
absolutely, yes.
So trying to turn the day on its head and say, okay, where am I at? And now it's really ingrained in me.
Yeah.
Every time I open my eyes is a really big fucking gift.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine. And so what advice would you give to maybe me or someone that's listening today about gratitude? Because I think often many of us are in that place of, I don't have something to be grateful for, or we feel the pressure to constantly find something to be grateful for because it may take away from just being okay with being shitty. I don't not being shitty, sorry, having a shitty day. And I don't necessarily hear you saying that. Because I do follow you, and you do say if you're in a bad, like, own where you're at before you move forward.
Yeah.
But I guess the question is, like, what advice would you give to someone that's struggling to find gratitude, and how can they get through that dark day?
So I think there's a few things. Like, even when you're feeling things are pretty dark, you can really just challenge yourself for the mundane. Like, did you have a cup of tea that you enjoyed today? Do you have pain in your body today? You know, you just really make it so much simpler. And then all of a sudden you got 5 things that you've ticked off. And yeah, are they anything to shout from the rooftops? No, but it's just challenged your brain to change that cycle a little bit.
Yeah.
A lot of the anxiety that we feel is self-induced.
Yes.
Because we're worrying about the future.
Yeah.
So if you stopped worrying so much about the future and just really were in the day, like, even if you're not sure how you're going to pay that big bill, you know, your furnace just broke down and you're like, how am I going to afford that? The fact is, right now you have a roof over your house, over your head. You have people that love you. You probably have someone you can talk to about it. You know, you when you start to just acknowledge the other things, then the ideas and the fixes and the solves and the way forward comes through it.
Yeah.
So I always think that those really mucky moments are to show you something that is going to be a tool to get you to the next place, or is going to be a skill to help you.
Yeah.
You learn the most, they always say, from your failures.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think you learn a lot about your resolve and your attitude from the darker places.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really easy to laugh and have fun, but you're just enjoying that. You're not, that's not an active learning time.
Right.
So if you can embrace the harder times to learn whatever lesson, or even just that sense of resilience, it gives you strength to really enjoy the blessed times and spaces that you have in your life.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. I think, I'm thinking so many things. The example about the furnace is a really good one, and because I think it can resonate with many of us listening today, that there are these obstacles we face day to day, and some, you know, in the grand scheme of things, is a furnace in comparison to maybe something that's dire, and that can mean losing a house in a fire. There's always something that can be a little more than the other.
Or a sick family member.
Right. You
or
know,
a struggling child. Or,
totally. Exactly. And I think even, like, sometimes just backing it up and, okay, where I have my health, whether that's my mental well-being to help me with my physical health, or my physical health, I can go for a walk to help me with my mental, but I have something. But then there are those days where it's really, really hard to find that something, because you feel, you know, they always say these things come in threes, fender bender, then the furnace went, and now you got a call from your kid's school. And sometimes, you know, you're like, oh, I'm just attracting this negative energy. And I what I hear you talking a lot about today is having that village, that network, you're saying, your community, because those are times that maybe someone in your little network can help you remember about it's okay, or hear what you want, because we can't always give it to ourselves. And I think we put pressure on ourselves that I should be positive about this, and then, like you said, that anxiety in your head, because don't be anxious, stop being anxious, but I'm anxious. And so, you know, like, you have so much to be grateful for, that script going through your head. However, being able to talk to someone about it, I feel like I feel honestly helps unravel that stuff out of, I was thinking of a thread, like yarn. unravels that ball of yarn of just saying to someone, I'm so mad that my furnace went today. And okay, at least I can get that off my chest.
Yeah.
And I hear you talk about sharing that space with others. And I think that's why, I don't know if you realize, like, you touch a lot of people in your journey, because you kind of extend this little hand out there and saying, okay, let's do this together. Or I don't know about you, but here's what I'm doing with these sparkly shoes over here.
Yeah.
And just reminding us that you didn't just put those shoes on and walked out of the house pretending.
Yeah.
You had a moment with yourself. I was going to ask you a few minutes ago when you were talking about the back and forth with the doctors and these appointments, like, you're in your early 50s. And so what did you think your 50s were going to bring when you were leaving your 40s? Like, where did you think you were going to be? Because you're talking a lot today about being where you're at. Mm-hmm. So was there a time where you envisioned something different and you're experiencing this journey now? Or
yeah, and I would say that it's better than maybe I thought it might be. So
I like that.
I really had a sense, like, by the time you're 50, you're pretty old and you're set in your ways and you don't do new things. You're just really in a comfortable time.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of my 30s and 40s were a lot, especially having a son with autism and special needs, it was a taxing. And then we added my health stuff into it. A lot of that just felt like survival.
Yeah.
You know,
when you look back now,
yeah.
Did you know that then?
I didn't. Well, yes, I did know it. Yeah. You can't have a special needs child and not know that that's not a typical journey either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
It was definitely tough. And for us, he wasn't diagnosed with autism until after my heart tumor, because that was the pressure that gave him a mental break that put him in the children's.
Oh.
Yes. So
like the pressure of you having to be in the hospital and probably feeling dad stress, your daughter stress, everyone's stress. Yeah.
And so we actually had a period of time where he was in the children's hospital and I was in the foothills, because I was having colorectal surgery and he was in for mental health.
Oh, how old was he?
It was just when he turned 14.
And that was the first time he had experienced something like this kind of breakdown where he was admitted to the hospital.
Yeah.
Wow, that must have been a scary time for him.
Yeah, it really was. He had a break. We learned, because we'd always known, like, he'd been diagnosed with ADHD and learning disabilities. So we'd always worked under that guise. But we thought he had autism testing when he was 6, and they didn't complete the testing.
Oh.
So it was
Is he because he's high functioning in some ways? And so he can come off like...
Yeah. So he socially, I'd say a lot of people wouldn't necessarily recognize. He's got pretty good social skills.
Okay.
And he is intelligent. His one science teacher in junior high said to him, your IQ's higher than mine. Which is
he's like, yeah, I know.
But he's really bogged down by his executive function and his learning disabilities and stuff like that. And I think the lady the psychologist who did the testing, she really wanted to kind of build him up and say, okay, you've got definitely struggles, but you have a lot of strengths too.
Totally.
Which was a great gift.
Yes.
And we had always had to pay out of pocket to have any kind of testing, and it's super expensive. Like, $3,000 to $5,000 every time you try to get some help. It's like, oh my goodness. So when this happened, Alberta Health stepped in and said, this family needs support. Like, there's a lot of stress. We will organize all of it. And they did. So amazing. It was great. Yeah. So it really was the final kind of key to understanding him and getting him on a better path.
Yeah.
But yeah, he definitely relied on me, and I was struggling with my health at the same time. And we were trying to find an educational sweet spot for him.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of treading water.
Right.
And at 50, I just thought, oh, they'll be grown and then you can just have peace.
Yeah.
Well, I hit 50 and I didn't want peace. I've got like a new body that has a lot less restriction. I'm being embraced a lot differently in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to have fun, you
Yeah.
know? Like,
Yeah.
I want to have fun and not be stared at as the plus size lady or the obese lady or.
Yeah, because you talked earlier about wanting to just hide in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I don't want to do that. And I hope, because, you know, a lot of people say, oh, you're so beautiful now, like, or you look so healthy.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, you're glowing. You look so much healthier. And it's like the irony in that.
They have no idea. They just know that you've lost. Yeah, because you have a post of your before and after.
Yeah.
And if we leave it at that, you totally look like you're part of a Jenny Craig story where you lost all this weight, and it's for the better, because that is how we've been conditioned. Right. Thin means healthy.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, how ironic is it that there's so many complications that come with this weight loss at the time with all your with your heart condition.
Yeah.
And
so I hope that people might follow me because they find me attractive or they like my fashion or whatever, that I can still try to make it a little meatier.
Yeah.
That I can really communicate what life is about. It's more than what you look like. That's why, you know, every now and again I'm gonna share a pretty dang unflattering picture of myself.
You have.
I have.
How, for your son, did he not recognize you? Like, does he see something different about you with you having lost that weight? Does he see a different mom in any way, or is he different with you himself?
No, I don't think so. You know, that's the thing. Like, he's always just loved my heart. That's just the safe place for him. And that has not changed about me at all.
Right.
I think that's something all my friends would say.
Yeah.
I maybe have a little bit more self-esteem now. I maybe can say no a little bit better. Yeah. But I'd say a lot of women that hit 50 also give less fucks about
put their middle fingers up a lot more, right?
Yeah.
I love hearing that.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I hope you talk more about that, because I think you're a good role model for us women, just to start to get comfortable with what you're saying, with in the right way, giving less fucks, because you're raised, and I think every woman from every culture could relate to. You go last. You talk, like you said, you talk less. You being nice, not kind. You don't have a backbone, and if you do speak up, then attach all the bad labels to that.
Yeah.
There's all these sorts of these things, and this is still happening in parts of the world. Mm-hmm. Right? So you think of that too, and so sometimes I'm like, okay, I feel really blessed. I'm South Asian. There are things that I've experienced, I'm still going to experience, I'm going to struggle with. However, I can talk about those things openly. Like, I feel privileged to be able to openly share some of these struggles. Mm-hmm. So for a woman entering her 50s, sort of talking about these things, I think you're a great role model to help the rest of us, and some of us that are struggling, whether it be with weight loss, whether it be with body image, whether it being with maybe finding our voice. I think you're a great role model for that, because you talk in that way of, like, stop caring, wear the fucking shoes, right?
Yeah.
Or this post about you. So you did your 40 over, you were part of Lori's 40 over 40 campaign, as we mentioned earlier, with the boudoir shots.
Yeah.
I got to be part of that. So we sort of got to know each other through there. And we all have various reasons of why we choose to do boudoir. Can we talk a little bit about why you chose to do these nudes? Because you literally were nude, right?
In your pictures. Literally nude.
Yeah. And I remember you saying, so many of us start off dressed and get more
comfortable.
Yeah, as we take a piece off, and then some of us by the end do a nude shot. Some of us don't.
Yeah.
You walked in there starting with your nudes.
Yeah. And I also said to Lori, I want no hair and makeup. I want it to be totally raw. And she's like, okay, we can do that. I can tell you, she said, I've had other people ask, and I've never once had anybody actually like those photos. And I said, it's not about me liking the photos. It's about me accepting what those photos are and showing other people. Because there's definitely been, in the last year, 6 months, as I've really whittled down in size, a lot of perception from people, obviously on my looks, because that's what I can show in Instagram.
Yeah.
And what people see out in public, that, oh, you're such a small size now. You're very petite. You're, you're beautiful.
Yeah.
That should mean I've got the world by the tail, or
whatever. You have the confidence to follow and all of that. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. They see me doing things. Yeah. So that just must mean my life is grand.
You're great. Yeah. You're perfect. Now we want to be like you.
Yeah. So I wanted to show, guys, this is what's under here.
Yeah.
This is just a costume.
Right.
This is really what I'm wearing.
Yeah.
I see that often because I like to go out social dancing with my friends. Well, I get a lot of male attention now.
Yeah.
And I just think so funny. They probably run to the hills if they saw.
Right.
Because for quite a while, I had a bunch of creepers on my Instagram.
Yeah.
Well, when I started really digging into stuff, wow,
where did they go?
Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, good.
Yeah.
Who comes? The women.
Yeah.
That's what I hope that I can help.
Right.
Yeah. So I think I was more attractive probably 100 pounds ago because I didn't have all this loosey-goosey skin everywhere.
Right.
But people don't really see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People create their own narrative.
They do.
That's really yours, meant for you to create. And you talk about that through your stories and your pictures as well too, that like you got to figure your own stuff out. This is just my journey and come along if you want, but you got to figure yours out because you sharing that picture. Let's talk about that picture. So first of all, was Lori right? Did you regret it when you look? Because at the end of these pictures, she has a massive projector screen, right? Where you get to see your hundreds and hundreds of pictures.
Yeah.
So you're seeing yourself. And also I want to point out, I don't know about you, but the experience of my first pictures versus my last pictures is very, like, I picked a lot more towards the end because I felt like, I kind of figured this out now by the end. When I started, I was like a nervous wreck and super awkward. But your first pictures are you completely nude, no makeup, no hair. You saw them afterwards on the big screen. Yeah. So like, what was your initial reaction when you saw yourself?
Oof. Oh, yeah. But I had mentally prepared myself for it. And I was also going in with, I wanted to create a story.
Yeah.
So mine weren't all just at the end because I wanted to show different versions and how we got there to try and tell a story. How that evolved, like Lori didn't know, I didn't know either. I took a crap ton of clothes and we just played around with it.
Right.
No, like we knew that it was really important to me to get those first raw pictures down in not necessarily a flattering way. Like the one where I'm laying down and, my stomach skin really flows over and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, but that's the reality of it.
What was going through your mind while you were taking that picture?
Just, this is real. Like I'm just being as real as I can be.
And there's no hiding.
Hiding.
Going from a woman that mastered hiding and being in the background to I'm literally understanding. I'm having an aha moment of what the message you're sending.
Yeah.
Going from that place, and for women that might be listening today, or for those women that we know out there that feel they don't have a voice because they are plus size, because they think they're, the society's telling them they're doing something wrong. So I might as well go and hide. Nobody wants to see me. To showing up there and like full on nude, butt naked, just saying that's gotta be uplifting and empowering too, because you're literally honoring yourself, and that's hard to do for women.
Yeah.
We're told we're not supposed to do that.
So that kind of goes back to there's freedom in knowing that your life is not guaranteed.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if my health wasn't at this place if I would have that same sense of freedom in my life. Because, you know, I am not a person who's going to, you know, when I pass, it's not going to be, she had this fantastical career. She lived her life in struggle. But what can I do with that struggle? What can I do to have some importance in my life? What impact can I have? And this is something that I can do that will be out there long after I'm gone.
Yeah.
That is hopefully a message to my daughter.
Yeah.
That it's never going to matter what your body looks like. It's just going to matter who you are.
Yeah.
And I want to show women that even if you look at a woman and you think she's got it all figured out, you have no idea what's underneath her clothes or in her brain or in her heart or her stomach.
Because she's more than the exterior shell.
Right. Yeah.
Right? That is exactly what we need to hear over and over and over again. And thank you for that.
Yeah.
Because we are still being told that that's not how it should be.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of that show Selling Sunset. It's on
I've
Netflix.
Heard of it.
It's stupid. Don't watch it.
Okay,
it's a waste of time. But I did it, and I binge watched. Binge watching is literally exactly like binge eating. Like you get sick, you physically get sick. And so I binge watched, and I'm on season 6 now, and I hate myself for doing this, but I also have to start when I finish sometimes. And so I was telling to my husband, I'm like, okay, now I'm just watching it for like research purposes. Like there's these women that are beautiful and gorgeous and flawless makeup, skin, and everything is filtered to the max, body, everything you can imagine, fashion, rich women. And some of them have babies, and the way they talk, I'm like, I'm a grown ass woman that should know better. And I do to some degree, but I'm also watching this and now feeling terrible because I'm watching one of them have a baby, and literally 2 seconds later she's just plopping on the couch, and she had a C-section, and I'm like, I gave birth naturally, and I couldn't sit properly for weeks. So you're doing all these things, and you're again reminding us that this is what normal is. And you know, the messages, they're little messages. A woman can do it all. She can have a career and look amazing and have a baby and blah blah. And that was me at some point. And it's hard because that's all we see. So then as a woman, you're constantly feeling like you're not delivering in the way you're supposed to. And again, you are showing us and telling us as you with your daily reminders that we got to fight that. We together, if there's more of us, we're stronger to re-script that women are literally an exterior shell.
Yeah. We're a lot more than what we look like. And also I have the thought process, if someone's angry or behaves badly, I've finally learned that that's not me. That's them. That's their expression of pain. It doesn't mean anything to me. And so I don't need to wear that. I don't need to feel that. But
how did you get there?
How did I get there? I think it is from going from plus size and seeing how I was treated to how I am treated today. And I've always tried to be kind and give people the benefit of the doubt. But that person got treated really differently. So if we're very different and this is what's coming at us, then it's about this.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the people in front.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just, you thought that was okay to treat someone that you felt was less than you would now.
Yeah.
Like I always get exceptional service now.
Right.
Like my daughter says she loves going shopping with me because she gets better service. And I'm like, that's really fucking shitty.
It is shitty.
Right?
Because that means that anyone that quote unquote isn't thin and what society would say is beautiful, then that's treatment is happening literally right now 100 times in every single mall or wherever you go. It's literally happening because you're living and telling that this is what you live both bookends.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can we all participate by balancing that extreme, that if you're obese, you're not well, and you're this person that should be hiding. But if you're thin, you're this beautiful woman that's accepted. Like, what do you suggest, or what are you finding is helping sort of bridge that and balance the in between, so we're not going from extreme to extreme?
I think that's really working on your inner acceptance. So challenging yourself and acknowledging that you get treated shitty and that it's not about you. It's nothing that you did. And maybe that's going to require some therapy. For me, for many years there, just dealing with my health and my frustration with my son, meditation was pretty key for me. It was just a way to kind of go through the emotions and shed them. But I still have a long way to go. Like my friends will tell you, like I'm still learning to stand up for myself. I'm still learning to have boundaries. People still want a lot from me sometimes. And my friends are like, hell no. Or we can be out and someone tries to be a little too familiar with me. Well, let me tell you, my friends are on that, like, back off.
The nice try.
Nice try.
You have to get through this panel interview over here, and you're not going to get the job, so see you later.
So I'm getting better at that. But just, we're always going to be exposed to things that we didn't expect, right? Someone's going to treat us in some way that is not right. And to have like a snappy, self-confident way to come back. Like I said, someone asks me such a small-minded question, I'm going to answer ridiculously by saying I'm free as a bird. Like, nobody's free as a bird. Wouldn't that be nice?
That's mine too. I'm taking that. I love it. Free as a bird.
So you just, what someone gives you, you don't have to justify yourself. You don't have to give them even really your legitimate time. Just getting really secure in saying, I am who I am and you're not worth my time.
Right. Well, and you make a good point too when you said about how when someone's having a moment and you're recognizing that that's about them, not you. And I think in relationships, especially in households, we ride those emotional waves of our family members. If you have kids going through puberty, if you know, you're living with your partner in the house and someone wakes up in a bad mood and maybe they had a bad morning, read a bad email, whatever, and then the other one wakes up and they automatically assume I did something and now I'm in a bad mood. And it's hard not to, I always think of an Avatar when they're like plugging into their dragon flying thing. I always picture that because I'm like, gosh, I feel like I keep plugging myself into this situation or this emotional moment a family member is having, and we make it about ourselves, and now we're in the bad mood. And I appreciate you reframing that, like knowing what's yours to own versus getting caught up in someone else's, and letting people have their moment of saying the thing that they're saying to you or feeling the thing they're feeling.
I just had that this weekend. My son was affected by another family member. And so I just said, okay, just think about that. Was what was said to you, was it true? Well, no. Okay. And did you know that it wasn't true? Yeah. And I said, okay, so you let that rock your boat, even though you know that that wasn't true. Yeah. So who is that bothering you? Well, me. Like that's hurting me. Okay. Maybe it's time to just kind of drop that and say, okay, they're having a bad moment and that wasn't about you, and let's go do something. Let's go to the zoo and change the mood. And he was like, okay. And we had a great fucking day
at the zoo.
We did. And it was funny. I went out with a girlfriend that night, and the bartender, he was really friendly and asked us what we'd done for the day. And I said, oh, I went to the zoo with my son. He's like, how old's your son? I'm like, 20. He's like, oh, he's like, I thought, like little kids. I'm like, no, I'm an old lady. Like, no, I said, it's surprising, but even you adults, you still like time with your mom kind of thing. But he needed help to kind of walk through that and realize that wasn't about him.
Right.
And then we reframed his day. Yeah. We did something fun. We made some fun memories.
Right.
Yeah.
Would you say that you reframed parts of your past being where you're at today, I hear you talking about some things that may have happened in the past for you that may have caused some stressors. I mean, even hearing about raising a family member that is diagnosed at 14 with autism. So I'm imagining there's all these other things leading up to that whether he's diagnosed or not, you're still managing behavior and figuring that out. Do you feel that some of those stressors were linked to your heart diagnoses and your health issues?
Yeah, so there is a lot of research being done about that. And I read it all, let me tell you.
Yeah.
And I don't think we know. Yeah. I mean, we definitely know it can't help, right?
Yeah.
If your system is on fire, does that mean you're burning systems down?
Yeah.
I'm sure it does. Like I said, the wear and tear on my colon from unmanaged IBS. I'm sure. But I don't know. Yeah, I carry a lot of things from my past.
Yep.
I have talked about some of the traumas that I went through. Did that make a tumor? I don't know.
Yeah.
We're doing genetic testing, but
right.
so far they haven't figured anything out.
Oh, there's nothing showing that it may be genetic, you're saying, at this point.
Yeah. We're doing some testing for my kids, but so far they've been testing specific genes and they've come up with nothing.
Yeah.
But then this latest guess by the electrophysiologist, she's like, oh, maybe we need to change to a different tact, like a different family of things.
Right.
So yeah. I think it is all just like we are a multitude of experiences. Your health is really diverse and affected by so many things, right? So is it affected by mental health? Sure. Is it affected by trauma? I believe it probably is. Is it affected by your environment? Probably.
Yeah.
The foods you eat, the places you go,
the
air you breathe.
Right.
Yeah. I think it all has play. And I think that's part of the reason why I really work on my mental health.
Yeah.
And one of the doctors, when I first had the first heart tumor, said, like, really, I don't know how you're alive. How are you alive? And I'm like, I don't know. I guess I've done a lot of meditation. And they're like, what do you mean by a lot of meditation? I'm like, some days I was in so much pain, I would meditate for 3 hours. The kids would be at school and I would just meditate on and on and on. And they're like, that's just crazy. Like,
I can't even do that. I'm going to be honest, for like 5 minutes without
getting
stressed about doing it. But you're in that much pain that you're trying to breathe and clear your mind. And yet that's like the hardest thing to do when you're in that much pain.
Yeah. But it was the only way that I could focus my brain and just keep moving forward.
Were you taking like high dose medications at all to manage the pain?
No.
Nothing.
No.
Wow.
No, I had been, and I'm not going to say misdiagnosed, but there was so much inflammation in my body that I tested positive for inflammation and they thought I had lupus. Oh. So I was on medication for like anti-inflammatories, but it really wasn't hardly touching anything. And it was just because there was so little blood flow, right?
Right.
And I also think that that's got to have its own wear and tear. Like how many years undiagnosed and then, so my organs weren't getting proper oxygen in the blood and that type of thing. So the wear and tear, I'm probably like a 90-year-old lady and my skin looks like it, but also so do my organs probably. I will never donate my organs, but you can use me for research. But,
right. Well, I mean, being the 11th person out there that is experiencing the kinds of health issues that you have and that you're still facing, I think there's a lot for us to learn. But I'm sure you're a walking research case that the doctors, or especially your new family doctor, probably also is like, ooh, this is good for me to figure out what's working, what's not, right? Because they're kind of testing a lot of things with you.
See, and that's the other thing, like even in healthcare, I get listened to a lot more. The electrophysiologist, he's like, here's another medication. You can give it a try, but if it doesn't work for you, I don't know if it'll have real impact. So if you don't feel good on it, like stop taking it kind of thing. So I started taking it, and suddenly I was waking up at night so itchy. I was like scratching myself like crazy.
Wow.
So I'm like, what is going on? And I was thinking, what have I eaten? You know,
Yeah,
like all
yeah.
those things.
Detergent for your
Yeah.
bed sheets. Yeah.
Yeah. So then day 2, no, I'm still itchy and like waking myself up, scratching myself so
But at
much.
night.
Well, just more like,
Oh, we felt it more. Yeah.
because then I wasn't distracted,
Yeah.
but I was scratching so much that I was waking myself up.
Right.
So I just, ironically, my family doctor makes me go in to see her every month just to stay on top of everything.
Yeah.
And I said to her, so I'm thinking this new medication, because it's the only thing I can think about, is making me itchy. And she's like, okay, let me look up the side effects. I'm like, I said, I didn't see one on the slip or whatever. And she's like, no, it's not a common. There's nothing common. And she's like, but we know you have a sensitive system. She's like, give it a couple more days and then stop taking it and then just see if it resolves. Then it's the medication and that's what it is.
Right.
So 2 more days. Yep. Waking up, scratchy, itchy. I go off it. Totally resolves.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay.
There you go. There's another side effect now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it may cause.
She didn't doubt me.
Yeah.
When I told the cardiologist, because she called and wanted to see how it was working for me. I'm like, oh, this happened. So this is what my family doc said. So that's what I did. And she's like, yeah, you're a different nut. So if you say that's happening, I believe that's happening.
Right.
But I think a lot of people, you would go to the doctor and they would say, no, that's not.
Yep.
Like, how many times do women go to the doctor and say, I'm gaining weight? Is it because of this birth control or menopause and they get told, oh, that's not likely.
Yeah.
Just
like move more and eat less.
Move more and eat less. Yeah. So I don't really get treated like that.
Right.
Even in that realm anymore. Like I really do get listened to. And like my daughter says, like going into the hospital with me, she's like, it's like you're the rock star there, Mom. Like,
oh, look, Regan's here.
Yeah. And some nurses have said, oh, I've heard your story. I had to look in your chart to see if my name was on there because I felt like I know you. And they're like, I couldn't find my name, but I definitely know your story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter finds that's pretty funny. And I'm like, well, I'm glad it helps. It makes people more aware. Like the amount of doctors I've told about my, that know about my weight loss now in relation to my health.
Right.
Like a lot of them kind of frown on how I was treated, but there's still a lot of education to be done in the medical realm.
Totally. Yep.
About weight and
oh, for sure. And I had a dietitian on not too long ago, and she even talked about, because I was asking all these questions, and she's like, that's the thing, like there's no study that follows people from start to finish. So she's like, you have to also understand, like we don't really have all this information. And even with that, we have to take it with a grain of salt because we latch on to the information. Yeah. Don't eat this, eat that, don't do this, do that, right? Like don't work out, don't weight train. And then years later, do weight train. So you're like, what am I supposed to do?
Or weight train first and then do cardio. No, do cardio first and then weight train.
Right. Yeah. Like, and you're like, I don't know what to do. Right. Yeah. And so I think that's really hopeful to also hear that you have a voice and you really are wanting to share with the rest of us so others don't have to go through this.
Yeah. I feel like, okay, if people are going to be attracted to me, even if it's for my physical outlook right now, but if that makes them listen to my story, then it's having impact. And I can only be as real and genuine as I am. It's sad that we have to like have that little carrot to draw people in so that they can pay attention to what you're really trying to impart.
Well, I think there's that. And I think there's not enough people talking about the real things that are happening. And so then there's so many people that are suffering in silence because they think, maybe there's people listening that have for their reasons lost a significant amount of weight and are also carrying this skin and
they can't afford surgery.
Right. And I think how helpful is it having someone like you for others listening to bridge that silence gap of so people can understand that this happens.
Yeah. Well, you hear about actors talk about, how different it was just having a fat suit for a role and how crazy that was on their
because they'll go out in public, right?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, I lived 20 years basically like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And And for me, like for some people, they were like plus size children, so they've never had that. So I went for a quarter of a century being a regular person to all of a sudden being a plus size, super obese person to now like almost a petite person. Like I've certainly
you have lived the fashion racks of all the sizes out there, right? You know what it is to shop for this size. And I'm saying it as a joke of shop for the size, but I get what you mean in terms of the reality of being in these different bodies.
Yeah. And I've had people say to me that they would never want to lose the weight and be stuck with the skin. And I'm like, I'm living a pretty good life, sister. I can do a lot of things. I'm thinking about go-karting this summer.
Oh, there you go.
I want to give that a whirl. That's something I wouldn't have tried.
Right.
I think I might try that this summer. I think that looks like a hoot.
Right.
You know, so skin shouldn't hold you back. Man, no. The ability to do what you want to do. I think about my kids and how many things that I didn't participate in fully that I wished I'd been able to, right?
Yeah.
Like whether that's climbing through all the tunnels at the park or whatever. Like I would always cheer them on at the other end.
Right.
I mean, they didn't feel that was a less than experience, but I still remember that and think, gosh, I would have liked to go through that tunnel with my kid. So all that type of thing that people have that thinking that, oh, I don't want to do that because then I'm going to have that struggle.
Yeah.
It's like, don't live your life like that. Don't put those boundaries on yourself. Just live your best self.
Right.
Whatever that might be.
In whatever body, whatever
whatever way, whatever health ability you have at the moment.
Yeah. I appreciate that for sure. I'm curious about what kind of feedback you are getting going back to your boudoir shots and your posts with your nude body and your skin. Like, have you received different kind of feedback from people?
I was shocked.
Yeah?
Shocked. I had a lot of chats with my friends really saying, you know, you've got to really be in the right space to put that out there publicly. Because you could get anything. And I'm like, I'm not sure. This could go really awry. Maybe I can handle it. I think I can. But and even my therapist, she's like, I'm so proud of you, even if you don't do it. Wow. She's like, I'm proud of you for even just thinking it through and what you want to achieve, even if you don't do it, or even if you do it and you never post the pictures. I was like, well, I feel like it's some purpose that I'm making out of this crappy situation. Yeah. And she's like, well, you have purpose even if you don't do this. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But I think for myself, I want to challenge myself. I want to challenge myself to have some impact that can help others. Yeah. I went into it thinking, oh, okay, brace yourself, be ready. I didn't get a single negative comment. Oh. Not a single one. And I shared, I thought the most popular pictures would be when I was more glammed up, masked, because at the end I wore those masquerade masks. Yeah, yeah. And the most liked picture was the one where I'm standing buck naked, no makeup, no hair. Yeah. In the really strong position with my hands up. Yeah. Yeah. Is
that the one you put the little stars on
my nipples? Yeah, yeah. Little hearts.
Oh, were they little hearts?
Yeah.
Even better.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like I saw that picture too, and a lot of things went through my mind. I can't even imagine how much I'd be sweating before I'd post it, right? Like,
oh my God.
You know?
That first week I not hyperventilating, but yeah.
Before you posted it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, should I, were you almost going to not do it at some point?
No.
You were always going to do it?
I was always going to do it. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty, when I've decided I'm going to do something. Yeah. Yeah.
It's happening.
Yeah. I'm pretty big on commitment to other people and to myself.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. No, I was going to do it, but it made me nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like I said, so I saw a lot of those creepers that send me gross messages.
Right.
Yeah, left.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Kudos to
But they
that.
were happily replaced by women who it resonated with.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm also a big believer in do what makes you feel good. Yeah. But just go through the process of thinking it through.
Yeah.
Because I said to you, I still want to have plastics.
Yeah.
But it's over $100,000 to fix this body.
Right.
Do I think at this age, when I'm not working, that's ever going to be feasible for me? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I play the lottery occasionally. But But we'll
not
see.
enough maybe, right?
Yeah. I figure life will make it happen if it's meant to. And if it's not, that'll be hard for me to carry.
Well, I think you've been living in a lot of these manifestations / like meant to be kind of moments, and maybe there's a reason why you haven't been able to get it yet too.
Yeah, that's what I think so too.
Yeah,
because if I had been able to go ahead, I would have waited. Right, until I had it all aesthetically pleasing as I could make it. Yeah, sort of thing. And I would have shared my plastic journey for sure. Yeah. I think what I've managed to do is a lot deeper than that. Yeah. But not also negating that I still want to have it done. Yeah. Because if you want to have your nose done and that's going to be the thing that has always driven you crazy, right? Then have it done. Like I got my eyebrows microbladed, I don't know, 5 years ago or something. And I'd always had scars from a dog bite. Oh. And I'd always felt self-conscious about it. Yeah. And I tell you, that was just a good little thing that I did, that all of a sudden I wasn't spending all this time trying to fill them in. And
you clear that space that all of that takes up, right? Yeah.
So I personally don't feel comfortable with things like fillers, but I might be okay with a facelift. Like, right. And I really don't care what that is for any person. And I said, when I showed my pictures, this isn't because I think every person needs to be naked and make a big statement.
Yeah. Don't do anything. Right. Yeah. That's not what you're saying.
No. Yeah. No. What I'm saying is take a pause, take some time to really think where you're at with it. Mm-hmm. And I'm an extreme version. So that's a good one to show.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. And again, your message of like, your body doesn't have to define you. No. If that's what defines you, that's what defines you. And you have to figure out if that's working for you or not. But your message is that's not the case. You've lived in multiple bodies now to know that that's not the case. And I like hearing folks like you talk about this, because that's kind of the journey for me too. For years was, do I get the tummy tuck or not? Yeah. And then I remember telling you earlier too, like, then there's this guilt of, well, what if the next day after I pay 20 grand, I get in a car accident and die, and I just like lost all this money, right? Yeah. The mom guilt and the woman guilt comes out. Yeah.
And university tuition out the window.
Totally, right? What if years later we're like, we could have used that 20 grand for this thing, you know? And so you think of it that way, and then you hear from women that have had it that feel it did take away a lot of that space that was negative and impacting them, and they don't have any regrets. You're like, oh, okay, maybe I should. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason why I still haven't. And I honestly think I like you am really trying to embrace other things that I could change about myself that might make me a better person. Like sometimes my attitude and sometimes my lack of patience and my impulsiveness. Oh God, the list can go on. I think
we all have those,
right? You know, I'm like, maybe if I work on that and this inner self, and my husband and I've had these conversations about that around, okay, like go ahead, do it. Is it going to fix the things that are happening in my head? I think it's helpful to have real pictures out there so we can have real conversations with ourselves when we're making these big life decisions of, do I get that surgery? Do I not get that surgery? Do I do those boudoir shots or not? If anyone attended Lori's event and saw all those women's pictures out there, you would see there were different shapes and sizes and ages and styles. And so there wasn't this one look that we think a boudoir would be, sexy lingerie and again a Kim Kardashian body.
Maybe the flash dance one.
Oh, that flash dance woman. Oh, and then when we learned that somebody had asked Lori if they could buy it, that photo was, man.
But even it says a lot because it's a silhouette. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So you're not actually.
That's right.
Yeah. You're not actually
seeing the person and their body. Right. Yeah, totally. I agree. I agree. Because it took a lot for me to ask Lori to not Photoshop either. I was kind of like, I'm like, I want to remember this version of me. So I didn't lose all the weight that I would have done too. And it was like, I got to be my weight. This is who I am. And I look back and I feel relief seeing that. And also I don't have to like keep trying to lose the weight to look like that again, you know, because in 5 years I'm not going to. So I'm glad that I dialed it down in some ways too and focused on building that confidence that I was going in there looking for.
Well, even I find, because like I said, I've lost a little over 20 pounds since I did those pictures. So I'm more wrinkly than I was then. I'm like, yeah, see, it was a good time to do it because now I got more wrinkles.
There's always that line, right? That keeps moving because we're constantly moving. We're constantly growing. So I think it's helpful to have these kinds of conversations because it is figuring out, am I doing it for me or am I doing it for someone else? And you also mentioned earlier about you're learning how to say no more and learning how to have, and I kind of get that sense too, like you have friends that are trying to teach you this too, where they're, you have to get through me, right? So where does that come from for you with learning to have more boundaries?
Maybe it's more opportunity. Maybe sadly, it is that people treat me better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's maybe sad. Maybe I got to dig into that at therapy.
Yeah. Note to self.
Note to self. Thing to work on. But yeah, I guess when people treat you better, then you start to realize, okay, yeah, I should be treated better. And then it's when someone, steps over that line where you're like, hey, that's not cool.
Yeah.
But before I would have made more excuses for that.
For that behavior?
Behavior, yeah.
Like what? Like what would be acceptable at that time?
I mean, when I would walk between two tables that were close together, and of course I have to kind of squeeze or shimmy.
Yeah.
You're embarrassed and, someone rolls their eyes or goes, that type of thing. And I'd be like, well, that's justified because I jiggled their table.
Right.
But was it a kind thing to do? No. And now no one's going to park their vehicle too close to me because I can squeeze in. And I kind of love that. But on the other hand, I'm cognizant, okay, there could be a plus size person in this other vehicle.
Yeah.
Make sure that you straighten out and you've left enough room. And it's taught me to be kinder and more generous and more thoughtful of other people.
Yeah.
And I can do that, but still have boundaries.
Right.
I don't deserve to be treated like that. And also to jump in when other people aren't treated well. I think I'm much more courageous about that.
Yeah.
I shared a while ago an experience in the hospital where an aide was being berated by an older privileged man. And she was like a young immigrant. And everyone just got really quiet. Yeah. And he just was on her. And I just said, stop.
Yeah.
Like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I'm trying to teach her. And I said, no, you're not. There is no purpose in what you're doing. And she's working very hard to try and help you right now. There is no excuse for that. And you know what the other men did? They just asked if they could be moved because they weren't comfortable. But even the staff came, she came and said, thank you very much. You didn't have to do that. And I'm like, I didn't have to do that, but I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
You have a hard job and you do it with such grace.
Yeah.
That needs to be acknowledged. And then the trickle in of the nurses to thank me. And I just thought, but as a plus size person, he might have said to me, oh, sit your fat ass down.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He was like, oh, no, okay.
Yeah.
Well. And so he was on better behavior. And I'm like, that makes me mad.
Yeah.
But, I'm glad that I could stop that. But,
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like in some ways you're carrying that version of you around. And do you ever go back and talk to the plus size you?
I don't know that I have a conversation, but I think I do have aha moments where I'm like, okay, remember when that hurt?
Yeah.
Yeah. That wasn't yours to feel that pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're making amends with some of those, what you thought was okay or what you were led to believe in the moment. Yeah. Like I guess almost like re-scripting that dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I am working on boundaries, and it's probably going to take me some time. And my friends because they always saw value in me.
Yeah.
So my one friend will be like, why? But why do you feel that? For me, I'm just, oh, that's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because I was treated so poorly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's almost like PTSD. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
When you're in a situation like that, where every time you get groceries, or you park your vehicle, or you stand in line somewhere, people are making judgments of whether that's about your size or your skin color or your behavior.
Yeah.
My daughter works with fellow with autism, but he's not that verbal, and he has a lot of tics and that type of thing.
Yeah.
She gets bothered by people that stare. She's like, I'm not, if they come and want to have a conversation or kind, but you know the difference, right?
Yeah.
The kid stares, and then the parent joins the kid instead of using that as a teachable moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. First of all, I want to go back for a second. I want to thank you for being a good example of what a bystander can do. It's very interesting, the timing, because an episode literally just came out today, episode 28, where I had this conversation with my guest, and it was an example of somebody experiencing racism. And my guest is a white man, and so he talked about privilege, and he also talked about the bystander, and everyone's always waiting for someone to go first, and how much power that person or those people that are watching something like what you talked about, that aid and that patient unfold. I think, thank you for finding your voice and getting to that place and being able to say something, because we all need that. And I'm sure you could have utilized that too in your past. And I think that's a really lovely way to go back and give yourself that, but also give this other woman who's exactly what you're saying, just trying to do the best she can in the moment. And when people utilize their privilege in the way that you explain and you've experienced, I think many of us can agree, it's brings out vulnerability in such a scary way. You're almost like that. You're naked standing there and these people are attacking you. And so for you to be able to go and put a blanket on her, and just like that kind of analogy talk, I think that's really helpful, I think, to step in, especially when someone isn't able to in the moment. I just think there's a role bystanders can play, and whether you do say something or don't say something, I think it's just like helpful to be aware in the moment of, could I be helpful here? Why am I not saying something? Is it because I think it's not my place?
I've always been a person, even as a plus size, that my kids always still talk about it. When I go out, people talk to me. They do. If someone wants to ask directions, I guess I look friendly
like
enough.
You get geography.
Yeah. Whatever it is, people chat with me. So
I think it's because you have a kind face.
Oh, well, I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I seem very approachable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're always smiling. Since I've met you, I've never not seen you smile.
Yeah, I am pretty smiley. I use that to my advantage now. I think in a different way, in that if I see a plus size person, I make sure I open the door for them and tell them to have a great day.
Yeah.
Or if I see a handicapped person, I will try and speak with them. Or like I try to see the people that struggle. Even if it's a woman in her sari and she's trying to choose shoes. I had this at DSW the other day, and she was trying to choose some sandals. And I'm like, I bought those sandals last year and they were so comfortable.
Right. Yeah.
And she was like, are they? And I said, they are. They're really comfortable.
Right.
One of my favorite purchases. And she's like, okay, I'm going to buy them.
I'm going to do it. Yeah.
And her English wasn't very good, but we just had a lady moment.
Yeah.
And
What would you say, looking back, were some of the biggest challenges you faced during the weight loss portion of your journey?
The pain. What a lot of people don't realize is when you lose a lot of weight, you're changing your physiology. So your ribs are shifting, your organs are shifting, just your weight distribution is shifting.
Right.
A lot of people think that losing weight is just going to make you feel lighter and easier to move around.
Right.
But there's actually a lot of pain in it. So that's a lot to work through. So most people need physio, chiropractor, massage, maybe you need hot tub time, like all that. And that, I don't think I really understood that. I mean, it is something we sort of touched on at the bariatric clinic. But again, I'm also very extreme, the amount of weight I've lost.
Yeah.
A lot of people maybe want to lose 100 pounds. So I've almost lost like 3 times that.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely a lot extra supports and even the money it costs for physio and massage and that type of thing. Because even if you have some private coverage, it's not nearly enough. What you're going to need. So
what worked for you in that time to like strategies or what to cope to that pain and work through that?
So I went to physio and then I ended up doing acupuncture.
Okay.
And that was good for me. I'm currently doing massage. I just have a few spots and also due to my age, I have osteoarthritis.
Right.
So, that's also part of what we did x-rays and stuff as I was having struggles in these different areas to kind of see what we were working with. But yeah, that's probably a really surprising thing that people don't realize.
Yeah.
I mean, it should never deter you, but you are going to have to work through that. And it can be hard.
Mm-hmm.
And when you've had bariatric surgery, you can no longer take the class of medication NSAIDs, which are anti-inflammatories, because they can cause stomach ulcers. And since you have a lot
tiny stomach.
you have really tiny stomach. So you can't really risk that.
Right.
So you can only take Tylenol based products. So not as strong.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to kind of learn to live through that and not stop, right? Because you need to keep still moving your body and doing those things. So
were there some like unexpected emotional or psychological challenges that you also encountered during the weight loss journey?
Yeah, I would say there was a certain point where physically I had become externally more attractive.
Yeah.
And started getting a lot more attention. And when you're a person who's gotten used to blending in the background and realizing I can't just run to the store because I might get attention some way.
Yeah.
That sounds crazy.
No, it actually doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. There was probably a good 6 months there where I was realizing, okay, I'm changing in a way that makes people want to pay more attention to me.
Yeah.
And that's not always good. Like, I don't always want that attention.
Right.
I don't. Yeah.
Well, would you say you weren't necessarily used to it? So you wouldn't know how to accept it?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's kind of like you look around and look behind you and you're like, me? You're talking to me?
Yeah.
Like, was it just.
And it made me feel very vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Why?
Well, I do talk about, like, I've had some past trauma and just how to navigate unwanted attention.
Yeah.
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 And yeah, like I had a bizarre situation where a dude followed me in Home Depot.
Mm.
And I think he was trying to get the courage to talk to me, but instead it just became like this creepy experience. And I left there almost panicked.
Right.
Because I didn't have the courage at that point to say, hey man, that's not cool. Or to just really walk away or I just didn't know how to boundary set at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, made me feel scared and vulnerable.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm still kind of like that. Like the girls know, like when we go out, I often Uber and they always walk me to my Uber, even if they're like parked a block down and they're going to walk there.
Yeah.
No, I don't ever risk walking to my vehicle by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. Hey.
Yeah.
So what role would you say self-care and self-compassion played during this journey for you?
Oh, yeah, pretty big. So one of my, I'm on a Facebook group for the bariatric community here in the city province. And I always emphasize to people, it's really important to have a psychologist or a therapist that you already are established with.
Yeah.
So they know the things that you have struggled with and they can help you navigate through those changes. Because I think that mental health resiliency, when you are changing so much on the exterior, you need to help grapple with that. And I mean, I didn't have the experience where I lost friends, but some people do. I happen to be the only plus size person in my friend group.
Right.
But that's pretty unusual,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, if your friends are all plus size and all of a sudden you're not even that you're a regular size person, but if you've never rode or,
Yeah.
now you want to go out dancing or whatever, and they're not into those activities, then doesn't mean that they weren't good people, but
Yeah.
you maybe have a different lifestyle
Right.
coming up. So
Yeah.
how you navigate that and maybe how you find a new circle.
Yeah.
That wasn't my experience, but I think we all have different areas that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's just so interesting to hear these last couple points you've made about some of the discoveries along the way, because it's always made to look like it's the best thing possible for you. Losing the weight, you're going to be better at everything in life and your life is going to be perfect now. And nobody really talks about what's happening in between as you're getting there. You're discovering this new person, and even talking about pain. I didn't understand that either, that there would be this kind of pain while you're going through that process, because nobody talks about it. You just get to the end game, the destination, and it's like, oh, look, you're holding a pair of pants that used to fit you, and now you should be proud because you lost that weight, but not the actual things that you should be proud of that you had to work through. Like, what does self-love mean? And did I love myself before? Would you say you love yourself differently now than you did before?
Yes, I would say. Yeah, I would say. And it comes back to strength. I know that I have weathered a lot of hard things, and I think we all do. And sometimes I get people say, oh, I can't tell you about, my sorry life because it's nothing compared to what you go through. And I really dislike that. We all have our own heavy things. And what's heavy to you is very valid. And I love people. I love stories. I love supporting others, encouragement. And I don't want sharing my story to make anybody feel minimized. I want them to say, okay, if she can share that, then I can share this, and I'm deserving of support as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think that's well said. How has your perception of yourself and your body evolved through the process?
Well, like I said, I think I looked more attractive 100 pounds ago.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because.
Do you think you'd ever think that you would say that?
No.
I don't think we hear that.
No. I mean, yesterday I bought a pair of pants that were a size 2.
Yeah.
The old me would have never fathomed that.
Right.
Those pants that you saw were size 28.
Yeah.
You
just cut the 8 out.
Yeah. So you think, oh, well, that must just be the ideal. But really, it's just a number.
Yeah.
It's just a pair of pants that fit me.
Yeah. What, I guess, like, how would you define what is the ideal for you?
Being comfortable in myself. Nothing really at all to do with my body.
Yeah.
Just comfortable in myself.
Yeah.
Comfortable enough to say fuck you when someone deserves it.
Yeah.
And comfortable enough to hug someone in tears, whether I know them or not, but just because I feel their heart. And
you don't have to be in a certain body to do that.
No.
Yeah.
Neither one of those things are rooted in a body.
Yeah. Yet we put so much emphasis on the body.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's as you're saying with your journey, that there's been a change and you're still you, yet you're getting this such different treatment now than you did before. And I know you kind of mentioned it. Do you find that to be difficult to accept, that you are the same person in many ways? Maybe you have different outlooks on certain things, and yet now people like you, and now people accept you?
I think I did go through a little period where I almost felt a little bit of anger about it, realizing how it's like an epiphany to people. Oh, she's interesting, or she's got a story to tell, or whatever. And I'm like, I was always a good person. I was always worth knowing. Yeah. You missed out before. Yeah.
Kudos to you for looking at it that way. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I really, my friends the other day, something happened that made me upset about it. And they were so pissed. They were so mad about what had happened. It was such a relief. I didn't even have to get mad. my circle was so fucking mad about it that I didn't even have to get mad.
Yeah.
I was like, I just, when you just feel supported.
Yeah.
It was just like, I am so blessed. Yeah. Everybody needs this.
Yeah.
You need a posse around you that reminds you on the daily where you belong.
Totally.
And what you deserve.
Yeah. And also someone or if you have more than one, like the posse of those people, they challenge you too.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think, uplifting and is important. It's also important, again, I find I have a couple of really, really good friends that can put me in my place sometimes because my anxiety is out of control and I think I should be doing something that I don't have, and just like reminding me that you're out to lunch, by the way. Yeah. Can you come back here? And, and I love that because it influences this space for safety. And when you have that space for safety, then like you said, you got that thing you were mad about out. And if you didn't have that space to tell those people, you'd be internalizing it and doing whatever it is that you process when you're mad, right? Yeah. And now you get to get it out, and then your brain's not holding on to, your body's not holding on to that. Now you can move to the next thing. Yeah.
And you're right. It works the other way too. So put something out there, or offer something. And if you don't hear back right away, then you start this, okay, well then I'm probably not worth it. Or, I probably that overstepped or whatever. Right. And they're like, you haven't even heard anything yet. Like, take a fucking breath. Like, just relax. Yeah, and it's okay. Yeah. I'm letting anxiety stir me up.
Right.
Yeah. Just be in the moment and wait for the response, and then deal with whatever it is at the time. It could be because half the time you torture yourself with the expectation of negativity that you think is going to come your way. Yeah. So you have to just frame it like, until I know anything, there's nothing to get stirred up about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I think it is a really good reminder. Exactly. Like what is the stuff that I'm fretting about that I don't have control over? Yeah. And how can I maybe be in charge or in control of how I'm feeling, how I'm responding? Because that's all we are in charge of, is I'm responsible for me and how I respond. But we tend to want to control these outcomes out there that just are not ours to control. Yeah. As you're sitting here telling me, we don't know what's going to happen today or tomorrow. And knowing that, what do we want? How do we want to make the most of it? Yeah. Is what I hear you saying.
Yeah. And I could be sitting at home just waiting for my number to be called, right? Day in, day out. Oh, it didn't happen today. Yeah. Oh, it didn't happen today. Yeah. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. Because then I will have wasted a lot of days. Yeah. That I could be doing fun things with.
Like coming and talking to me. Yeah, that's right. Giving me all this time of yours, which I think, because you're free as a bird. So, exactly. And so am I. So why not? Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a really good outlook, because we have choice in that matter. Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't feel like we have choice when we're handed shitty cards. Mm-hmm. However, maybe it's when we're dealt shitty cards. Yeah. My analogies and metaphors never make sense. My husband's like, you use a wrong word in that sentence. And I'm like, yeah, well, what am I going to do?
Me too.
Right?
Me too.
Our outlook can be lighter, and we can say, okay, still have a good day today. Yeah. And if it's having ice cream, or if it's spending time with my kids at the zoo, or whatever it may be, then wouldn't I want that more than, so what will it take for me to get there? What will it take for anyone that maybe is listening that's like, yeah, but that doesn't work for me? It's like, okay, well, what will it take to get to a place where you can give yourself a light day? Or
you really have to give yourself grace, and you do have to challenge yourself. So like I had said earlier, if it's taking a pause and making a list of 5 things that you're grateful for in that moment, it's doing things like there's so many lists out there of what oxytocin, dopamine, so have you got some sunshine? Have you listened to some music that you enjoy? Mm-hmm. And I don't mean like, if you put on some music and you're like, oh, I need to listen to Cyndi Lauper because that's just going to be so great. Well, you put that on and you're like, God, that's just not working. It needs to be Nina Simone because that's my vibe. Then that's your vibe. Like you can't force it on yourself, but you can choose things that you know that have worked for you before.
Yeah. And I think also sometimes, like when we go back to that choice, we also mentioned earlier, like sometimes you are in that place where you're in a negative space, having a bad day. And sometimes I give myself the okay to just give yourself permission and have a bad day. Like if there's going to be tomorrow, but like maybe I'm going to give myself 24 hours to sulk or cry or be mad or whatever.
And that's kind of 24 hours.
And then not after that, not a minute more.
Not for me. Anyways, like I know other people maybe need more time, but I know if I'm taking more time than that, then I need help.
Yeah. It's a bigger matter than
matter.
Right? If your feelings are that big about it.
Yeah. I can manage 24 hours on my own, but if it's leaking over that, then I need to call in for reinforcements.
That's a really good point. Where I used to work, there was this 24-ish hour rule too. Like if I have a issue with someone, it's my issue until I bring it up to them. So I can't really be angry at someone or be passive aggressive because you don't know at work I'm mad at you. However, when I also have to give myself a small window of time. Otherwise, we can go forever. Oh, she's busy, or I didn't see her, because not all of us, some of us are conflict avoidant. Like not all of us want to talk, tell someone we're mad at them. It's easier just to be. And I used to appreciate that because I think that gives us an opportunity to decide, do I want to stay mad? If I don't want to stay mad at you, what do I need to do? Do I need to get over it myself, or do I need to talk to you about it? But I got to give it a small window of time. Otherwise, it's not fair to be mad at you for that long and you not know that.
My friends, I have a pretty good tell, which you'll know, and anyone who listens to this will see. So, I'm on Instagram and I like to share things on stories that are, inspirational, funny, or just interesting sort of thing. So if I'm not posting and I haven't said I wasn't going to post for XYZ, then they're like, geez.
Something's going on.
Yeah, something's going on. So then they're really tactful. They're like, so how are things going?
Yeah.
What's up? Yeah. And I'm like, I'm just taking a moment. They're like, okay, like a moment tomorrow, we'll touch base. Yeah, give me till tomorrow. Yeah. So you'll kind of see, oh, she's got lots of stories, things, but Instagram gives you 24 hours as well, right?
It does. That's right.
So sometimes I'm like back on it before you see that.
Right.
But my friends know that about me too.
Yeah. It's like nice that this group that you're with, there's a lot of attunement to each other.
Yeah, there is.
And it goes back to what you were saying just a little while ago about those surface questions we ask when we really get to know people. We can really be there for each other when we're needed, right? Versus I don't know, is this okay? And can I overstep here and say that? It's nice to sort of have that group where there's none of those questions and everyone's thinking in the best interest of each other. Hey.
Well, and I find that my circle of friends, we are all really good cheerleaders, but we're all a little bit self-critical. And I don't know if that's everyone or that's just we're attracted to each other because of that commonality.
Yeah.
So, we give back what we get sort of thing. How they jump to my defense, but then they're not as great at looking for positives and what they deserve too, right? So I've got to volley that back. So that's kind of the ideal situation when you create a circle that you're equally aware of the sensitivities each person has and their needs, right?
Yeah, it's a give and take relationship, not I'm sitting here taking all this from you. You keep giving me this, but my life sucks so bad that I can't give anything to you.
Yeah.
It's we all need to sort of be there for each other, and I think that's nice to hear as you enter your 50s. That I definitely felt that in my 40s, maybe you do too. Like you get to this place where these relationships, particularly with women, and maybe for men, it's with men too, like just people that are sort of in your age group that may be experiencing similar things as you, but are in that place in life where you can have these really good heart-to-hearts with. I feel very grateful to have that. And I didn't always, because I I didn't feel worthy to share my stuff. And because everyone's got their shit, right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people will stop that themselves and say, well, everyone's got their shit, so I don't need to talk about my stuff. And then it's like there's a thin line between that and isolating yourself.
Yes.
And so it's like, I think helpful to ask, when is this line going to turn into isolation? Because I don't think as humans, we can survive without having at least one, if not few people in our lives, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like, I think some people, they really talk about having a best friend. And I think that's a lot of pressure for one person.
Yeah.
Because nobody has the space to be, I mean, look at marriages, right? It's pretty hard to lean on one person all the time, right? We need a bigger circle than that.
Yeah.
But friendships like that often take a lot of time to develop.
Yeah.
You know, like I think of my girlfriends now, and we met when our kids were small.
Right. Yeah.
And it probably took till they were full teenagers and we were going through some real shit for us to really finally open up a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then as they've transitioned to university students, and then we've had more time to kind of unpack what that was parenting. Like, you're coming through it going, okay, yeah, we made it.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm still struggling with this one thing over here.
Yeah.
Can we talk? Yeah.
And we find the levity in life. Like, if you see our Instagram shares, like our messaging, it's just really memes about dicks. And
that's not what I was expecting you to say.
Yeah, lots of totally inappropriate. Like we are the biggest kids underneath it all.
Yeah.
The thing that the world doesn't really see.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're
totally
crass and obnoxious.
Yeah. You're talking to each other on different platforms, WhatsApp to texting, Instagram, right? Yeah. Sometimes I'll have 3 conversations with and going on at different times with my sister-in-law, and a couple of friends. And it's like, where did you message this? Oh, right. It was group text versus Instagram. Yeah. That's really cute. I think that there's like a few friends in my circle, and a couple of them were on one of the podcasts too, just being able to, I think, find yourselves and your voice together. It's scary when you feel you haven't had a voice like you've talked about. And then to figure out what that is alone, I don't know if it would be possible for me. I'm not sure for you.
Oh, to have done this by myself?
Yeah.
No.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, even through it, I kind of figured out who could be closer for certain sections than others. Like, some can be in the hospital, some I can't have at the hospital because some are so emotional and they can be emotional, but they can't be emotional with me because I'm digging deep for strength at that time. Yeah. So just knowing what you need, and it doesn't mean that those other people don't have value to me in my life. It just means different people are good for different reasons, different purposes. But
that's very well said, because I think sometimes we can look for the same kind of friendship or expect that. And I love what you're saying. I think that's like an aha moment for me, that what one friend can help you with may not be what someone else's strength is, but maybe that other person's good for the dick memes. Yeah. And instead of saying this friend does it better than that friend, that's not the point.
That's not the point.
It's a village. So we're all going to contribute little parts to help each other. And I think that's really well said, because sometimes we can work against each other as women in particular.
And we need to take that pressure off ourselves too.
That you have to be everything.
Yeah. You can't be everything to everybody.
Yeah.
And the sooner you realize that, and those that you surround yourself with, to me, one of the biggest goals in life is peace.
Yeah. Peace
inside me and peace around me.
Yeah.
And so how do I build that?
Yeah.
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 And that's a pretty big part of it.
Yeah.
Dropping expectations.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely keeping us in the loop with how you're building that on Pace My Heart. So I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so this is the part where I'm going to ask you if there is anything that you wish I had asked you, or something that you were really hoping to talk about today that maybe we haven't.
I think we have talked about a lot, my friend.
Yeah, that's usually what I hear. People like, we talked enough. Like, can we stop now? And I'm like, but one more question. Okay, so what at this point, is there something that you can leave our listeners with? Something that you maybe think could be helpful that you've learned along your journey, or something they could go do that you've also learned along your journey?
Well, I think I'll go back to where we started and where we talked about having meaningful conversations with people, drop some of the pretenses of standard accomplishment in life, and just get to know people. Approach anybody like they could be your new best friend.
Yeah.
We have opportunity to make the world better by embracing more people. And to do that is just to be open-minded, open-hearted. And yeah, I think that would be it.
That's a good one. Thank you. You kind of tied the beginning, and it's like a full circle, the beginning and the end. So that was well done. I appreciate that. I also want to thank you at this point. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing what would be so many private matters in life with health, and being open about it, because the more people like you, like as we said, talk about these things, the more others may feel inclined to want to share their story as well with a loved one or a friend or someone they feel comfortable with. So thank you so much for coming on and letting me pick your brain today.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. Yeah, I hope that I show that someone can go through a lot of hard things and still be going through difficult things and live a very vibrant life.
Yeah. That's a nice word that you picked, vibrant. Yeah.
Thank you.
It kind of describes you in so many ways.
Thank
you.
I'll take it.
Well, thank you again.
Thanks.